welcome back to another episode of Ill Communication. Today I'm joined by the very talented FreqNasty, aka Darren, who has just finished an awesome gig in the Bay Area, and we just went for a Sunday afternoon hike, and now it's time for some tea.
Time for some tea as always.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to join us on Sunday.
My very unbusy day as it is, but happy to be here, man. Happy to be here.
It's great. It's great to be here. So Darren has actually been long been one of my favorite musicians. He's one of the pioneers of the new school breaks movement, as well as many other forms of bass music. Here, this one's for the dead homies. No, I'm just cleaning out the teapot, washing the tea, as you do. But yeah, Darren is one of the pioneers of the new school breaks movement, originally from New Zealand. He's traveled all over the world, and currently you are in LA, working on a whole bunch of different musical projects, FreqNasty included, as well as the Dub Curtain All-Stars, which is a very, very cool collaboration with David Starfire. Can you tell me what we can expect from you musically in the next little bit? You were working on anything new? Got any EPs coming out?
What do we have? The Dub Kirtan album just dropped, actually. So that's been very exciting. It's been a few years in the making, because it's a side project for me and a side project for David Starfire. So that's a project where we mix together the instruments and the chants of the South Asian traditions with beats and bass music. So it's bringing those two things together. I'm pretty passionate and into my yoga and meditation. So for me, it was a way to blend those two worlds together and have something that I could bring to the clubs, which the clubs wouldn't normally get that kind of yogic and meditative vibe, but also to bring beats and bass into the yoga and meditation world, because they need that as well, Dylan. Got to bring those things together.
Definitely. Very, very cool. And you had a number of guest vocalists on the record. It's a fantastic record. I would definitely highly recommend downloading it. Oh, actually, where can people download it?
The Bandcamp, Dub Kirtan Bandcamp.
The Dub Kirtan.
So Kirtan is Kirtan, Dub, as you would expect, D-U-B, Dub Kirtan Bandcamp. Yeah, so we have Chaitanya on there, who's an amazing singer. She's actually American, but she grew up in India, and her parents are devotees, so they have that I guess spiritual foundation for the music. That's where it all comes from, the Kirtan tradition.
Cool.
We have Arjun Baba, who's one of the main Sufi Kirtan singers on the scene in America, and he's both of them spend a lot of time in Pakistan and India with their teachers there, musical teachers. Then we have our man MC Yogi, who's
he's great.
He's cool as shit. So Nick came and did a track with us, Supreme Magnetic. We have Donna Delori, who's just one of the main Kirtan singers on the American European circuit. She's used to sing with Madonna and now does her own thing in a very different context, which is beautiful. I love seeing people who cut out from the big time and do something more left field, so that's cool. And Sri Kala from New York is amazing cat. He does all sorts of, I guess, underground hip-hop projects out there in New York with his Unitribe crew. And then also works with us, so that's cool.
Cool.
So that's been a very interesting thing developed over the last 4 or 5 years. Album just dropped, that's exciting. FreqNasty-wise, I have a new single, which I played out last night, which will be released soonish. I don't have a release date.
Cool.
The reason I don't have a release date, because I've been deeply immersed in tactile sounds.
Yes, of course.
You know what that is, don't you, Dylan?
Yes, Darren is. Well, here, why don't you have some of this delicious?
What are we drinking here?
This is Black Phoenix Oolong, courtesy of More Tea and the West China Tea Company in Austin, Texas. Very good friends of mine.
Cheers.
And delicious stuff. But yeah, the Subpac, as many of you know, is a system whereby the bass, rather than being transmitted to your body through the air, is transmitted through intimate physical contact with a vibrating pillow that you can put on your chair. Subpac enthusiasts include myself, as well as Excision, Liquid Stranger, Datsik, and a whole host of other people.
Code 9, Mala, Pinch, Richie Horton. There's a whole bunch of people. I mean, it's a
it's amazing. It basically like cuts out the middleman, so to speak, between you and the subwoofer, and it provides much more accurate bass monitoring than you would get from, you know, a traditional kind of sub setup. And it's a real game changer, especially for anyone who's trying to produce in an environment where, you know, you need to be quiet, or, you know, perhaps on a plane, or, you know, with
Hotel
neighbors
rooms
late at
when you're
night,
out.
hotel rooms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But more than that, more than just being a replacement for, you know, the ability to be loud, it's actually really like a whole new experience of bass, and it's really changed a lot about the way I write music and the way a lot of other people write music. But yeah, that's really cool. So how did you get hooked up with those guys? Because
The founders came to me very early on to get me to beta test and prototype for them, and I tried it, and I had the same experience as most people who try it, as you did and RD did, where you sit down within 5 seconds. First of all, when you get told about it, you're like, what is this thing? Tactile sound, physical dimension of sound, Subpac, what the fuck is this? 5 seconds on it, your jaw drops, and you're like, holy crap, I get this right away, right? So that's
it's pretty wild.
That
It's
happened to
pretty
me.
wild.
You know, same thing happened to you, and the more I tried, I thought maybe it's just me, because it was early days and not that many people had tried it then, and I thought maybe it's just me freaking out because I love bass, and you know, everyone who I showed it to, same thing. It was just like, okay, this is a game changer. It's
it's bananas.
New way of experiencing music and sound, full stop. So we started working together, and really over the last year and a half I've gotten deep into the tactile sound world, and I'm working on projects in the health and wellness world, so working a lot with the deaf and hard of hearing community.
Cool.
So the Subpac is like headphones for deaf people, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Giving people who can't hear music something that's given us so much enjoyment and you know, so much joy over the years, to give that to deaf people is an amazing thing. So I'm really passionate about that aspect of it. I'm also working with neuroscientists on different ways to entrain the brain using tactile, so it's adding a whole new sense to brain entrainment.
Yeah.
To work with being able to get into deeper meditative states straight away, and then also production for DJing.
Yeah,
and
production.
It's just a no-brainer. I mean, it's more accurate, it's more high fidelity, it's quiet. It weighs 4 pounds instead of a pair of double 18s that weighs 200 pounds.
Yeah,
it's just superior
amazing
technology, straight up. That's why I'm involved. So.
Sweet.
The
Sweet.
Subpac. The Subpac.com is where you can check it out. TheSubpac. The Subpac.com. Sick
Wicked.
new technology. So I've been doing a lot of that.
Cool. And you mentioned also that you know, I personally know that you've been very, very interested in yoga and meditation and stuff for a long time.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about like what it's like trying to mesh those two worlds of like, you know, the kind of, you know, yoga meditation world with the kind of action-packed travel lifestyle of an international bass musician? They seem like opposite things, but you've managed to develop a synergy. Can you tell us a little bit about that synergy?
Yeah. I mean, for a long time, I was pretty much, you know, running around the world, playing a lot, being in a different country often, you know, for a couple of days in a row, being in different time zones all the time. And it's punishing. And I really, you know, I see a lot of the cats that are doing it full out now. I mean, having been in the industry for 15 years or more, it's something where sustainability becomes an issue. So for me, while I was touring full on, I would be doing yoga every day. And that's what kind of kept me alive on the road. You know, at the peak of touring, I was away from my home 8 months a year. Wow. And, you know, that's not sustainable unless you have something to fall back on. So for me, it was yoga. And from there came the meditation practice, whereby helped me just stay on my game, be more focused, less stressed, and so forth. And then I got deeper into it after that, taking on a practice and a teacher and so forth, and the Buddhist tradition, Buddhist yogic tradition. So I got pretty deep into it, and I found it had a whole lot of benefits for me. And really the beautiful thing about the interface between music and yoga is that the more that I was out there DJing and had a meditative practice, that I'm seeing people on the dance floor attain these states that you would read about in the yogic text. You know, there's this kind of thing of being purely presentistic in the moment. On the dance floor every weekend, there's kids attaining these high states of the meditative Sufis and yogis just by being in front of a sound system with great music that they loved. So there's this sense of connection with everyone and everything around, and a sense of not worrying about the past or the future, being in the moment, purely in the moment, right? The sense of just great joy and bliss that arises, just that. And it's not, some of it's the drugs for sure, and that definitely that helps. But then also there are a lot of people who don't take drugs who have that same thing, that music speaks to them in that same way. So what I wanted to do is really look at the parallels of the peak dance floor states and the peak states of the yoga meditative path, and bring those two things together. So I, with a friend, Claire Thompson, do a series of workshops called the Yoga of Bass. Yoga meaning union or practice of bass music. Bringing those two things together and working out how we can take these peak experiences on a dance floor and bring them out into the rest of our life. And make them something that we can take into the studio or take to work or to our relations with our friends and family and so forth. So for me personally, I wish there was someone doing what I'm doing. It's kind of the way I've always run with my music, really. When I go to make music, I go, okay, what do I not hear that I love? What can I imagine that would be awesome but isn't out there? And I've done the same thing with the Yoga of Bass workshops. Just go, okay, I wish there was someone doing this when I was coming up in music that wasn't all like raw meat, drugs, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, which is awesome. I did a bunch of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and it was great. But wanting to move that forward, to push into a different direction, I wish I'd had someone who said, okay, well, there's these other ways of doing this, of achieving these states, of having these good vibes. And so as I didn't see it out there, dived in, and really it's a beautiful thing because we're bringing music, club music, back into the yoga and meditational world. And music and spiritual paths have always been closely associated, actually. So there's a lot of people that come to us and say, oh, I got into yoga and meditation, thought I had to leave all the music behind, but I realized I don't. And then there's also people who are really into the music side of things. They thought, I'm kind of into the spiritual or yogic or meditation thing, but I didn't think there was any real connection. So being able to pull those things together on both sides has been amazing for me and for Claire as well. And so we try and take that out when we're on tour. We just did a beautiful tour of Australia and New Zealand where I do a bunch of music dates, and then we did Wanderlust Yoga Festival, and then we did a yoga of bass session in a warehouse at Rubik's Funhouse in Melbourne, which is just straight up concrete floors, big sound system. And it's something I'm really pursuing over, something that means a lot to me. Is a lot of sort of resonance from the musical side, but also just in terms of how I live my life now, which is different from maybe 15 years ago.
Sweet. Well, yeah, I've found like, over the years, I've really kind of grown to appreciate the importance of sustainability just in terms of your physical body, and so many people, they think of health practices as just saying no, like, oh, right. I'm not going to eat raw meat. I'm not going to, snort cocaine. I'm not going to, do this, that, and the other thing. And yeah, it's important to say no to things that are unhealthy, but it's also so important to say yes, to like, yes, I'm going to go to yoga. Yes, I'm going to go for a hike. That. Yes, I'm going to go, go swimming or, do a sauna or join a gym or do whatever. And just like really learning to say yes to your health and really embracing these kind of like proactive approaches to your own health is ultimately, going to help you build a better brain and a better connection with your body and connection with the world around you. And really, thinking of like the mind and the body as kind of like separate things. I used to think of the body as just this like meaty thing that carts my brain around so that I can get to the next studio and make the next track, but really like learning to recognize that like, you can't have a healthy, sustainable, creative, effective producer without a healthy body and without a healthy emotional life, and really embracing the full spectrum of active health practices is something that I would have loved to, to really tell myself in the past about. And you've been making music like since the 90s. I mean, I bought some FreqNasty vinyl in the 90s. Yeah. It's cool to hear you talking about how you would have liked to go back in the past and turn yourself on to these more active, healthy practices. I
mean, I probably wouldn't have listened. Don't get me wrong, but it would have planted a seed that might have ripened earlier.
What about as a producer? Is there any advice that you would give your past self as a musician or just as an artist or as a creative soul? Like if you could go tell the fledgling
Yeah,
FreqNasty?
definitely.
Were there any words of wisdom you'd impart?
Yeah, I mean, really, where I'm at now is trying to keep things simple. I think, especially in the digital age, we have so much shit available to us, so many different plugins, so many different synths, so many different compressors, and really, there's a temptation to want to try all the newest, latest shit, to try out, this synth that's going to revolutionize everything, or this compressor that's so much better than all the other compressors. And actually, when it comes down to it, I think learning all your fundamentals on one or two different synths, on one or two different compressors, on one or two different EQs, there's only a few tasks that you need to do with each of them, and a few different types of synths or compressors or EQs or whatever it is that can that you need to know. And then really it's learning the small amount of equipment that you do have really well. I think it's way more important than having a vast palette of stuff that will supposedly be useful for all different situations. And so I think whether it's hardware or software, especially software though, because it's so easily available, to really focus and become an expert on a limited amount of things that you can really use across a number of different genres or different musical environments, and make that your ninja technique rather than knowing 500 things, because it's impossible. There's too much information out there. We're in information deluge mode right now. So selective ignorance is your best friend in this day and age.
Selective ignorance is your best friend. From the man himself. Well, thank you so much for these words of wisdom.
Thanks
and for taking the time to come have some tea.
Cup of tea, PK sound system, a ferry studio. What more could you ask for?
Cool. Well, hey, lots of love, Darren.
Awesome, man. Wicked. Good
Cheers,
hug.
man.
Good vibes.
All right, awesome. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Cheers.
Cheers.
Wicked.
That's some good tea, actually.
It is.
That
It
is
is.
some
It's
good tea.
tasty business.
Thank you.
All right, wicked.